Morning and welcome to Gardening 365 88. So what have I been doing? I've been shredding paper and cardboard so that later in the year I can start making compost again. So it's all shredded, it's nice and fine and it breaks down really easy. There's the cardboard there. So I'm not going to make any compost today, so I'll just put that to one side. But I have been saving lots of other stuff ready for making compost as well. I've got some packaging which was left over from Christmas presents. I've got some coffee grounds from Proper Coffee. It's been ground up, hence the name Coffee Grounds. I've collected tea bags and eggshells, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them very shortly. The tea bags just dried. Let's face it, things don't dry that easy in the winter. And then I just open them up and collect the tea. And the reason why I do that, some of the outers that you get on tea bags contain plastic, believe it or not. I've never been able to understand that. Some of them are paper. The plastic ones cannot be recycled, and I'm not totally sure whether these are recyclable or not, so I'm not going to take the chance. And there it is, the tea. There isn't loads, but obviously over the next few weeks I can collect quite a lot. And the tea bags I brought down today, I just leave them out in the greenhouse for a week or two just to dry out, and they process much easier. Another example of recycling, this is a pot noodle. And I'm using it to store seeds. They're sweet peas. And I spoke about plastic. Now, plastic can be one of the gardener's worst enemies. You don't want that getting into your soil. Now, gardeners also use plastic and glass and whatever else recycled to their benefits. So here I've got a milk carton that I've probably used about 50 times just for watering the small plants in the greenhouse. So this isn't single use. This has been 51 uses. And the eggshells, I've stored them in the dry in a glass jar, which was previously coffee, instant coffee. And you saw me do this on some of my videos last year. When you're finished with your pot noodle containers, I just cut them up. And I make little seed labels. And then, when I finish with them, because obviously if you put permanent marker on them, they can't be used anymore, I collect them all together, and at some point I will put them out for recycling. So nothing goes to waste.
Not in this house!
Single-use plastic in its second life. So I keep talking about compost. What is it? Well, this is my wormery, and I'm going to show you the top level. It's just a mixture of greens and browns. And this as yet hasn't broken down. Looks okay though. Not many worms in it yet. And that's quite understandable. It hasn't been going so long. But as soon as I go to the next level, instantly you can see worms. Lots of them. And the soil itself has broken down. And it's just absolutely superb. Very rich in nitrogen and absolutely great for pot plants. Basically for anything that's nitrogen rich. Look at that. Absolutely superb. And all that is our waste product that we process to make this stuff. And this is the life of your garden. I encourage everybody to start making compost in a small way. The wormery itself takes up very little room, and at the moment I've got this in the greenhouse because the severe frost can damage your worms and kill them off. I really don't want that. I want to keep my worms till next year. And here's one of my overwintered chilies. As you can see, it didn't make it. And overwintering isn't absolutely guaranteed, so unfortunately this one's failed. This is something I made at the end of 2022. It's my indoor compost eater, and basically what it is, it's full of compost. As it's composting makes some heat, and I use that heat within the greenhouse. Now, it doesn't make the greenhouse red hot, it probably only rises the temperature a degree or two, but every degree counts. And just to prove nothing goes to waste, not even the failed overwintered chili, I'm just going to chop it up into relatively small pieces.
and it'll be composted. Nothing goes to waste. And talking of chilies, last week, which was January the 8th, I planted my first chilies. You can take a quick look now at what I did. Morning, it's the 8th of January and the weather outside is wet and horrible. Over the years I've learned a little bit from reading books, internet, and watching Gardener's World, watching Monty Don. Hello. So I'm going to sound incredibly clever now. So my mix for my chilies is 3 parts ericaceous compost and 1 part perlite. You don't have to do it this way, but this is the preferred way. Just give that a rough mix by hand and I'm ready to go. And I'm going to plant 3 different types of chilies, and I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to plant some, well, 3 tomatoes and see how they do. That is an experiment. And I'm using 3-inch pots. There's no stones in the bottom of these. I want these to be moisture retaining, not free draining. So there's no stones in the bottom, and I'm using perlite to retain the moisture as well. I'm going to put 3 seeds in each of these. That's it, all done. Next step is to label them up, and then a light sprinkling of the compost that I've made just to cover them up. And when I've finished, I'm just going to press them down a little bit so the seeds are definitely touching the soil or compost. And I've made their very own little propagators. Obviously with the energy crisis this year, we've got to be careful how we use our energy. So a little rubber band there to keep it all tight, little plastic bag over the top, and that will give them the humidity they need to germinate. And last week I also planted some sweet peas and some normal peas. Let's check the progress. Last year I collected loads and loads of sweet pea seeds with the help of Claire. And even if I lose most of these, if I get a few, well, it's 3 seeds. So I'm going to plant some of these now on the 8th of January. We'll see how they do. And I've got 24 seeds there, so we'll see how many of those germinate. I'm going to cover them up now and press them down a little bit and give them a little bit of water. I've done exactly the same with normal peas, and again there's no waste because these was collected from seeds last year. If every one of those die, no cost to me. If they grow, bonus. These are the brassicas that I planted in the greenhouse on the 9th of October. I just want to show you something I think is absolutely incredible. And it's this one here. Look at that little broccoli. I'm guessing about 2 to 4 weeks, and that'll be our Sunday dinner. Absolutely over the moon. No eating as well. Perfect. Peas and sweet peas. I've had a good soak now, and I'm going to put them somewhere in the warmest place in the greenhouse. I wonder where that is. Now in my greenhouse, at the very end, there's a separate area that shuts off, which will hold the temperature better. And in here, and it's not very tidy at the moment by the way, the highest point in an unheated greenhouse will be the warmest point because hot air rises, or warm air, or even cooler air. But that will be the warmest place, and if you look, there's insulation around it as well, so I'm going to put them up there and see if they germinate in the next week or 2. There they are in position, and you might think sweet peas and sweet peas won't germinate, but if you look, I've got sweet peas growing wild just about everywhere in the greenhouse. Pretty much finished in the greenhouse now. But this was one of my Christmas presents. And this is a beehive nuke. And I'm going to take it up and I'm going to assemble it. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing shortly. And obviously, now I'm going in, shutting those doors is very important, because otherwise I won't keep the heat in. And for the chilies, they need much more heat to germinate, so I'm going to take them inside. Just walking up to the house now, and wow,
Now we're miles behind everybody else, but that's a good sign. Our daffodils are coming up, and that's a good sign spring is not far away. Really impressed with that, even if we are behind most people. I've just come down and had a quick look at my bees, and they seem to be doing really well overwintering. So they're still active as such in the hive, and I've not really taken the hives apart to look at them, just through the very top, and they seem to be doing okay. And the other thing, which is more gardening related, there's lots and lots of daffodils coming through down here, because it's that little bit more protected. Beekeeping is very much like gardening. At this time of the year there's very little to do apart from prepping for what will become the next season, which is the spring and summer this year. So I'm going to be doing a bit of prepping. And the first job I'm doing is I'm going to make 6 more frames just like this. These will be bigger frames to go in the nuke box. Now then, I always like to prepare all my stuff, so when I start it's all there in front of me. That's the way I work. First little job, I'm going to take this piece out here. So I use my little stick just to ease it off. And there's the piece, and I just need to tidy that up in a little bit. So I need to do that to the other 6. And then the next bit is to put these bottom bits on here. Now at the moment it's not nailed, so it's just loose, so I'll do the nailing very shortly. Some of these are a little bit tight, so they just need a little tap. It is literally a tap with a hammer. Too much, I'll split the very soft pine wood. That one's gone in really easy. Most of them go fairly good. Just going to nail these now, and it's a little tap, not a knock, and you need a solid surface. Trying to drive them in as straight as you possibly can. You just need a nail either side of here. Just tap them in. Tap, 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 not hammer, hammer, hammer. And the same on the other side. And one of the last stages, not quite the last, is to put the foundation, which is the wax, in. So it slides through the top piece where you just nailed. Slide it down. And at the bottom, these bits, not sure you can see it from here, we just bend these up to right angles. So it's nice and level. And what I'm going to do then is put one of these sticks into the bottom there, and then the very last operation is the final nailing. Nailed up now, and that's the frame complete. And as I said, these are bigger than the ones I showed you before. This is a little nuke box that we saw me bringing up before. I'm just going to put a few small nails in. I'm trying to tap more than big heavy knocks. So that I don't split the wood. I've got 7 more to put in. All finished now, and I put a coat of linseed oil on to preserve them. So this is my nuke box, and you'll see what I'm going to be doing with this later in the year. Well, that concludes this episode of Gardening 365, Gardening 365 88. Join me next time for Gardening 365 89. Bye for now. And the chilies are now in the house in a nice warm place, and they've got some water in the bottom there now for the perlite to soak up. Here's a great gardening hack for anybody that's got a hole in their welly. Bread bag, foot in welly, dry foot.